Okay, so in my last video I talked about the best year of Brawl Stars. So I guess it's now time to talk about the worst year of Brawl Stars. That's the intro. Okay, so the year I'm talking about is 2021. Kinda ironic how the worst year happened right after the best year. But that's what happened here. Now luckily I don't have to spend 2 minutes telling you what makes up a good update for me, or why I'm not gonna talk about the meta in this video. But for those who are too lazy to watch my first video, here's a recap. I'm not going to talk about the meta because I don't really care about it. And as for the update side of things, I mainly look for the main feature or the main features. Which new mechanics do the brawlers have? And smaller features. If you want a more in-depth explanation of all these, you can watch my first video. But for now, let's get started with the feature side of things. 2021 has a total of 3 features, a far cry from the 7 of 2020. And while 2020 features were evenly spread out, 2021 had 1 feature at the start of the year and 2 features at the end. This left a 9 months gap with no major features. But hey, it doesn't matter about how many features we got, or how they got released, it all matters about the quality. So now let's look at every feature individually. First up, we've got Power League. Power League was the ancestor to Ranked, which means that it is a competitive game mode. And did it succeed in that unlike Ranked? Surprisingly, yes. Power League was split up into 2 different matchmakings. The first one was solo and the second one was team, with solo being you playing by yourself, and teams being that you would play with your friends. This made Power League a lot more fair than Ranked, because in solos you wouldn't be able to play with your friends, meaning that your opponents would also not play with their friends. And in teams you couldn't play with bad randoms because you had to play with your friends. Well, unless your friends are bad randoms themselves. Other than the matchmaking being split up in 2, there were also no modifiers or new game modes coming in every season, which made Power League extra competitive. And progressing in Power League was also better than Ranked, because if you won a game of Power League but lost the rest of the games, you would lose less elo, which meant that you never really felt like you wasted any time when you played the full 3 games. So overall, with all these positives, it sounds like the Power League is a pretty good feature, especially compared to Ranked 1.0. But those were all the pros, because now I'm going to talk about the cons. First of all, the minimum power level you could play a brawler with was power level 4. That is ridiculous. I actually remember upgrading all my brawlers to at least power level 5 so I could play them in Power League. The next con it is the brawler selection screen. All you could do in it when Power League first came out, it was to select a brawler. There was no banning, pre-picking, suggesting brawlers, or favorite brawlers. It was just a simple screen where you could pick your brawlers. And the final con, and the biggest con of them all, the rewards. In Power League, all you had to do to get rewards it was to complete quests. These quests were just win battle quests, and you would get free player icons for completing them. But if you completed the bigger quests that would usually require more wins, you would get a skin, which you had to pay for. So other than player icons, you would also get star points. While at the leader resource nowadays, back then it would allow you to buy boxes and a limited selection of skins. So other than star points, there wasn't any good reason to play Power League. And casual players thought the same, because while it was popular with pros, it proved to be too grindy for casuals, which was the reason why we got this thing instead. So overall, looking at all the pros and cons of Power League, I'd say it's an okay feature. It does definitely have some major problems, but all in all, not bad. Now let's talk about the second feature that got added, Club League. And I think this image perfectly embodies how Club League works. Yeah, it's just like Clan Wars 2. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday you would get 4 tickets. This means 12 tickets in total. But your tickets reset every time you get new tickets. Kinda like Clan War decks. And you would use these tickets in either a 3v3 or a best of 3 game. Doesn't that sound familiar? And regardless if you've won or lost, you will get red trophies, but if you win, you'll obviously get more red trophies. Just like in Clan Wars 2. And every time you get new tickets, your trophies get added up. And depending on where your club places up against other clubs, you'll get points. Like the steering wheels from Clan Wars 2. Yeah, I hope I've shown you that this is just Clan Wars 2, but with a Brawl Stars coat of paint. Overall, the only thing that isn't really the same between both are the rewards. While in Clash Royale you get gold for winning battles and a juicy chest at the end of the week, in Brawl Stars you instead get club coins. And with these club coins you can buy coins, power points, skins, scraps, and gear tokens. I'll explain the last 2 resources later. So I guess that is different. So is Club League good? Well, is Clan Wars 2 good? Because Club League is heavily based on Clan Wars 2 and no one really likes Clan Wars 2, then of course Club League is also not good. The only reason why anyone even played Club League were because of the rewards. And the worst part is that Club League had pay to win in it, kinda like Clan Wars 2 at launch. Wow, both of these are more similar than I thought. Because when Club League first came out, you could buy golden tickets. And golden tickets were pretty much like extra tickets. But because you could buy them, that meant that the club that had more golden tickets would obviously have the advantage. Now luckily, this pay to win would get patched in 2022. But because it got patched in 2022, I cannot consider it as a part of 2021. Okay, so we've got an okay feature and a bad feature. Let's hope the last feature is at least good. Okay, now it can't be good. This feature has 3 main components to it. Power level 10 and 11, and gears. Okay, so adding 1 power level was already bad, but 2 is overkill. So even if gears were the best feature ever, this feature would still not really be the greatest. And the worst part is, gears are a bad feature. Gears back then pretty much worked the same way as they do right now, with just one key difference. You can upgrade gears with 2 new resources, scraps and gear tokens. You can sort of think of gear tokens as power points and scraps as coins, with the key difference being that gear tokens are assigned to a certain gear. So it would be like if each rarity had their own rarity specific power points. Now that sounds stupid, doesn't it? And each gear has 3 different levels. Now the dumb thing about the system is that they're gears. They could have put an upgrade system on gadgets, star powers, or even hypercharges, and then that would be really cool. And they instead gave it to the most boring power up. But hey, it doesn't matter because they were pretty pay to win. Both gear slots were locked behind power level 10 and 11 at launch. Coupled with the upgrade system also being pay to win, that just makes for a pay to win recipe. And the worst part is that the distance between power level 1 and 9 is the same as the distance between power level 10 and 11. And because each gear has multiple levels and every brawler had 5 of them, that meant that they were obviously more expensive than buying both gadgets and both star powers. So pretty much if you had a fully maxed out account before this update, you would now need to remax your account again. So of course every content creator spent thousands of dollars to get their account maxed again. You know, this sort of reminds me of something. But anyways, I'm getting a bit off topic. Overall, 0 out of 10. There's nothing redeeming about this feature. I think I'll make a video in the future going over how truly bad this feature is. Overall, all these 3 features, well, they are features. The first one is fine, but the second one is bad, and the third one is horrible. You know, really thinking about Club League and gears, I got no idea what Supercell were thinking. So overall, 2021 is a pretty bad year for features. But let's hope that the brawlers can save it. 2021 had a total of 10 brawlers. And while that is one less than 2020, that does put it in second to last place for least amount of brawlers in a year. Now, while a good chunk of these brawlers were still unique, that doesn't mean some of them were still a bit lazy. Like take Belle for an example. Her main gimmick is a blue orb that bounces between brawlers, which is the same as Jessie's main gimmick. Or take Lola for an example. Her main attack is a basic copy of Max's main attack. And Max's main attack is a basic copy of 8-Bit's main attack. And 8-Bit's main attack is a copy of Colt's attack. And Colt's main attack is a copy of Rico's main attack. You get the point. So Lola's main attack is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. But at least with 8-Bit and Max, they've got different supers from Colt and Rico's. But Lola's super is practically just double. And while that mechanic in itself could be pretty unique, but just the fact that her main attack is a blatant copy of 4 other brawlers' main attack, that just makes her super uninteresting and practically the same as Colt and Rico's super. And then there is Grom. While I love playing Grom, I gotta admit his super is a bit lame. I mean, it's just bigger main attack. Whoa, so cool. So yeah, while some brawlers from 2021 are kinda stinkers, most of the brawlers are pretty solid. Like yeah, some brawlers may share some mechanics from other brawlers, but that would be disregarding the fact that most of these brawlers are still quite solid. Plus, some brawlers' ideas have been so good that they've been copied for newer brawlers. So overall, the brawlers released in 2021, not the worst. Finally, we've got smaller features. Okay, let's see here. Map maker updates, those are pretty cool. We also got a skin selection rework which brought the skin randomizer. Knockout, the last permanent game mode we would get for 4 years. A game mode selection screen rework? More double gadgets and more animated pins? Jessie remodel that everyone hated. I guess clubs going from 100 to 30 members? No one liked that. Boxes containing scraps and gear tokens? Can you tell I've barely anything to say? I mean, half of the stuff I just said aren't actually smaller features. And the only truly good smaller features were map maker updates, skin randomizer, and knockout. Otherwise, everything else was just bad to okay. So in total, we've got 3 bad features, a selection of brawlers which is okay, and some mid-smaller features. Overall, if we just discarded power level 10, 11, and gears, the gear would probably get something like a 4 out of 10. Pretty mediocre. But because of power level 10, 11, and gears, this gear goes down to a 2 out of 10. Overall, the only thing saving it from being a 1 out of 10 is some good brawler mechanics and some pretty good smaller features. Overall, the only year that I'd say even comes close to hitting 2021's level of bad is 2024. It's kind of funny how the best year for the game is the second worst in my opinion, because it has the same amount of features and a good amount of lame brawlers. But even then, one of the features from 2024 were still quite good. Plus, we did get more brawlers in 2024, so I can kinda excuse why we got some more boring brawlers. And that isn't even looking at smaller features. 2024 got a good amount of them. I mean, we got hypercharge skins, contests, team improvements, hypercharges, brawler selection screen improvements, and Buzz Lightyear. Okay, scratch the last one. But otherwise, the selection of smaller features are pretty good. And considering they were experimenting with events, I think it makes sense that we didn't get too many features. All of this together makes 2024 a 5 out of 10. And keep in mind, that's the second worst year in my opinion. So the fact that 2021 is significantly worse is saying something. So that is, in my opinion, the worst year of Brawl Stars. Overall, in a vacuum, the year doesn't actually sound too bad. But if you looked at how Supercell released everything, you would see that most of the content came out in the first 4 months of the year, and the last month of the year. This meant for 7 months we wouldn't get any major or exciting content. And a lot of trends from 2019 and 2020 wouldn't carry over to 2021. Like in the summer when they released second star powers and second gadgets, as well as releasing one every week for the rest of the summer. And Halloween got the same fate, because in 2019 and 2020 for October we got a brand new feature as well as a brand new brawler. And 2021 was just some skins. This just tells me that the Brawl team weren't really too focused during 2021. And this is sad to see because 2020 was a great year for Brawl Stars even with the circumstances. 2021 was so bad that I quit the game in early 2022. Now luckily it did come back in early 2024 right before the Godzilla event. But unfortunately it seems like ever since the Angels vs Demons event Brawl Stars has been falling off hard. But hey, nothing lasts forever. And with that, thanks for watching this video and I'll see you guys next time. Talker, CR, and BS.